All praises are Allah's, Lord of the world. Peace and blessings be upon our Master, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, and his pure immaculate Ahlul Bayt. I would also like to offer my congratulations and felicitations on the blessed occasion of the birthday anniversary of our second Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam, for all Muslims, especially this very warm crowd tonight. Inshallah, tonight I want to read a hadith which will accumulate and cover many of the sessions that we've had up to now. So it's a good summary of many points that we've mentioned up to now. It's a very important hadith. It's from the Holy Messenger, and Ibn Arabi in one of his works says this is the most incredible of the ahadith that I have encountered. And the Ulafa in general, they benefit a lot from this hadith. A lot of points are covered. I shall mention 3 or 4 of them, but there are many, maybe more than 10. It's very subtle. إنه كان قائدا مع أصحابه في المسجد. The Holy Messenger was sitting with his companions in the mosque. فسمعوا حدة عظيمة. Then they all heard a loud noise, a loud sound. فارتعوا, they got scared. فقال, the Holy Messenger said, أتعرفون ما هذه الحدة? Do you know what that sound was? قالوا, they replied, Allah wa Rasuluhu a'lam. Allah and His Messenger, they know better. It wasn't a physical sound that anyone can relate to. This was something beyond the physical. They hadn't heard of this before. And they were very frightened. Only the Messenger and the companions heard the sound. Many people who were in Medina and around the mosque at that time, they may not have heard anything. But these people, they heard this loud sound. They asked the Prophet, what was it? Then the Holy Messenger replied, حجر ألقي من أعلى جهنم منذ 70 سنة. It was a stone thrown from the top of hell 70 years ago. Let's first understand the superficial aspect of the hadith, then we'll go into its depth slowly, inshallah. That sound that you heard was a stone thrown from the top of hell 70 years ago. وَالْآنَ وَسَدَ إِلَىٰ قَعْرِهَا. And right now, it reached the bottom of hell. فَكَانَ مِنْ وُصُولِهِ إِلَىٰ قَعْرِهَا وَسُقُوطِهِ فِيهَا هَذِهِ الْحَدَّةِ. And it's reaching and hitting the bottom of hell. That was the sound. The sound of the stone hitting the bottom of hell after 70 years traveling down. فَمَا فَرَغَ مِنْ كَلَامِهِ إِلَّا وَالصُّرَاخُ فِي دَارِ مُنَافِقٍ مِنَ الْمُنَافِقِينَ. And as the Holy Messenger's statement ended, at the same time, screams and lamentations were heard coming from the direction of one of the residences of one of the Monafiqeen. Admat, that Monafiq had died. Right, as when the Holy Messenger finished his statement, the Monafiq died. وَكَانَ عُمْرُهُ 70 سَنَةً. The Monafiq's age on death was 70 years. Remember, the stone was thrown from the top of hell 70 years ago. After 70 years, the stone hit the bottom of hell. It made a loud noise. It wasn't physical. They asked what it was. The Holy Messenger explained. At the same time, then they heard the physical lamentations. Because from the house of a Monafiq. The Monafiq had just died at the age of 70. فَقَالَ Allahu Akbar, the Holy Messenger said. When the screams were coming out from the house of the Monafiq, the Holy Messenger knew what was happening. He said, Allahu Akbar. فَعَلِمَتْ عُلَمَاءُ الصَّحَابَةِ أَنَّ هَذِهِ الْحَجَرَ هُوَ ذَلِكَ الْمُنَافِقِ. And then the ulama isn't the plural of alim. Ulama isn't the plural of people like me, for example. No, alim isn't enough. Ulama is the plural of alim. You don't have to wear the clothing or garment to be alim. You may be illiterate, but you're alim. You have gnosis with a G of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ulama amongst the companions of the Holy Messenger who were there, they realized that the stone was the Monafiq. That stone that the Holy Messenger was speaking about is the Monafiq. وَإِنَّهُ مُنْذُ خَلَقَهُ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى يَهْوِي فِي جَهَنَّمَ. And the tradition continues that since the creation of the Monafiq, since the birth of the Monafiq, he was always in hell from birth. I'll explain this soon. وَبَلَغَ عُمْرُهُ 70 سَنَةً فَلَمَّا مَاتَ وَصَلَ فِي قَعْرِهَا. His life reached 70 and he died when he reached the bottom of hell. That's the tradition. It's one of those very key, important traditions. And now, after going through certain concepts with you over the last few nights, it's more easier to digest what I'm about to say. I'm only going to refer to 3 or 4 points. There are some points which are a bit too deep, maybe even for me, so I don't want to confuse you too much. The first point is that, what is death? Here the tradition speaks of someone reaching the bottom of hell and then they died when they reached the bottom. Here we have to explain what death is. In Islam, we have 2 types of death. One is a natural death. Natural not in the physical sense, in the philosophical sense. I'll explain what it means. And one is a forced death. In natural death, what happens is that the soul becomes independent from the physical body. And as it becomes independent from the physical body, it becomes free and leaves the physical body. And that is death. However, this independence from the physical body, this has to be explained. What does it mean when the soul becomes independent from the physical body? It means the soul becomes independent from the physical body perfection-wise. What does that mean? It means that the soul can't become more perfect with this physical body any longer. The glass is now full. He's reached his peak. No longer with this physical body can the soul acquire perfection. Now this perfection may be in virtue or it may be in vice. With the mu'mineen, the soul has become independent from the physical body because they can't acquire more virtue anymore with this physical body. The soul becomes independent from it, and therefore natural death arises. Also with the Monafiq, the soul of the Monafiq becomes independent from the physical body because they can't perform more vice anymore with this physical body. The soul becomes independent and natural death arises. That's the definition of natural death. The Imams, according to the traditions that state, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam states, لَيْسَ مِنَّا إِلَّا مَقْتُولٌ أو مسموم. With us Ahlul Bayt, we are either killed or we're poisoned. If they were not to be killed or martyred, they would live forever. Immortality is possible. We agreed to that. The Imams are the manifestations of the attribute Al-Hayy, and they can always be alive. Theoretically too, it can be proven. It's not rationally impossible. Then we have traditions that say everyone will die and so on and so forth. There's another form of death too. It's forced death, where the person, as a result of their behavior, what they eat, their lifestyle, and the result of their actions, for example, they sin a lot, they lead to a status in the body which forces the soul out. For example, too much cholesterol, sugar, and so on and so forth. The body now is in a bad state, it forces the soul out. The soul can't continue with this body anymore. With the mu'mineen we have it. They're mu'min, but they eat in a particular way, they lead their lives in a particular way, and the soul is forced out. This is no longer natural death. They never reached their potential lifespan as a result of their actions. And even to the non-believers, although sins don't have a negative effect, won't decrease the lifespan of the non-believer, but the lifestyle still is the same as with the believer. They can force the soul out. Or sometimes someone is killed, for example. That body reaches a state where the soul can't persist with this body, can't act with this body. Now let's go back to the first form of death again. Sometimes you see people at 20 years of age, 30 years of age, they suddenly die. And it wasn't because of high cholesterol or high glucose for these reasons. For example, there are mentors in spiritual wayfaring who have students, and that the students pass away at a very young age, at 28, leaving behind wife and many children. And some of these mentors never continue mentoring again. These have to be explained in such a way, in the following manner, that the mentor, with the prescriptions that they gave to the student reached their potential, their maximum, too early. The glass became full too early. It's to do with amal, actions, and ilm, knowledge. The more knowledge you acquire, then you act on a par with that knowledge. But if you act a lot, and your knowledge doesn't grow in proportion to how you act, you will reach that end maybe at an early stage. And that's why action and knowledge always have to go together. Those students, they reached a stage where they couldn't acquire more virtue with the physical body anymore. And that led to that independence of their soul from the body. Or sometimes someone at 20, 25, they pass away. And you don't see any reason why. There was a brother which I personally knew in California, and he passed away at 20. Parents, very good parents, very religious. He was very against oppression. He couldn't tolerate oppression. And he was taught this very well, although this is my own understanding. But that death wasn't a death because of cholesterol or a heart attack, because of medical reasons. But when you would speak with him, whenever you would speak of the catastrophe and the disaster that is happening to Muslims in various parts of the world, and these days when the world is occupied with the World Cup, what they're doing in Gaza is really atrocious. But it's not anything new what's happening. It's happening every day. In Gaza, in Iraq, every day tens and tens of people are dying. There's definitely a Muslim cleansing, or even Shia cleansing, which is happening today. That with organization, they're destroying a lot of Shias. Population is at risk in many areas, and it's all in a planned way. Anyway, this brother couldn't tolerate it. And when you would see the oppressions, it would really have a strong effect. And he wasn't given that ilm backing for him to grow at the same time. He passed away at 20. These things happen. The reasons differ from person to person. But once the glass is full, for whatever reason, and the child, the offspring, the person can't perform more virtue with this physical body, they undergo a natural death. The soul becomes independent. Now here in this story, the Monafiq reached his end. He reached his maximum. The Monafiq reached his perfection. But his perfection in vice, because he was a Monafiq. And when he couldn't do more vice anymore with this physical body, he underwent a natural death. He hit the bottom of hell. That was his maximum. when he reaches maximum. So that's explaining the idea of reaching the bottom, reaching one's maximum. In this case it's hell, reaching one's maximum in vice. They can't do any more vice with this physical body. The soul becomes independent, and the Monafiq died. The next point was that the ulama amongst the companions of the Holy Prophet, they realized that the stone that the Holy Messenger was speaking about, that was thrown from the top of hell, and it hit the bottom after 70 years, the stone is the Monafiq. Now we've explained in previous nights that your heaven or your hell is in your hands, and they exist right now. The reason you can't see it or feel it is because it's not physical, and you're occupied in the physical realm. Right now your heaven or your hell exists, and you're making it depending on what your actions are. But remember, innahu amalun ghayru salih, in relation to Noah's son, he is non-righteous actions. You are your actions. These actions moment to moment are manifesting. With the Monafiq, his actions manifested as a stone. Because a stone never evolves, never grows. The stone 70 years ago is the same stone after 70 years. There's no growth. And this Monafiq never had any growth. Never had any spiritual growth. It was all vice. He wasn't even an animal. He was a stone, much worse. The stone is the Monafiq. That is the body of the Monafiq in the hereafter. But it's not a physical stone. When they heard the sound of a stone hitting hell, none of this was physical. You can't say if it was physical, then you can't say the stone is the Monafiq. They are two different things. This was the metaphysical, hereafter manifestation of the Monafiq. The Monafiq and the stone, one reality. But in this physical realm of existence, it's the Monafiq. The same Monafiq in the hereafter manifestation is that of a stone. And that's going to be painful. The next point is that why does the tradition say that since birth, since the Monafiq was created, he was in hell? What's the explanation there? Is that fair? Why should he be in hell from the very beginning? Here, if you remember, from 0 to 7, parents have one set of responsibility. From 7 to 14, parents have another set of responsibilities toward the child. If from 0 to 7, there's no wajib duties for the child. And the child may do many bad actions, and the Sharia won't reproach the child for doing these bad actions. And so, especially when the parents bring up the child negatively, that child has negative attributes within it. But those negative attributes are harmless at this stage. And that's why sometimes we call children, oh, you little devil, for example. It's harmless though, and the Sharia doesn't reproach that. It's after puberty where it becomes harmful how the child acts, because now duty is upon them. And from puberty onwards, if they continue with those, in quotes, devilish actions, that's going to be problematic, and their hereafter will be problematic. With the Monafiq, having that child, well, okay, it's still benign, but he continued as a Monafiq. And that's why he was always in hell. But that beginning when he was in hell, that's a benign hell. That's not going to be problematic. If children die with, in quotes, devilish attributes, they're not going to be burnt or anything. They may not go to heaven or something like that, but it's not going to be... It's a special place when children pass away. And so when the tradition says they were always in hell, the focus is on puberty afterwards. But they were always in hell even before that, but it was benign. And then finally, the last point is that Imam Rahmatullah alayhi, he once wrote a letter to his daughter-in-law, giving Irfani advice. It's in Farsi, but I think it's translated too. And in that letter he mentions this tradition, this very tradition. And then look at the conclusion he makes. He says, "Oh, my daughter, the sirat is here in this world. The bridge. It's right here in this world. Don't think it's a physical bridge in the hereafter. That you have to pass over this and that. What did you do in this world? Action to action, you're building your sirat as you live in this world. You are the builders, the architects, the constructors of your bridge. And as you're acting, these actions will be manifested as the bridge in the hereafter. And depending on the bridge, it will either lead you to heaven or hell. But it's not a physical bridge. It's all metaphysical. And when traditions speak of this bridge being thinner than a sword, sharper than a sword, thinner than a hair, yes. In this realm, the physical realm, the Sharia has duties. Since it was my first time in this community, I didn't really want to bring too many of your faults and introduce you to your faults. I wanted to just know you better. Next time, I may be more frank if I come here. I may have to tell you many things. But right now, it's a honeymoon period. And I don't want to spoil it. Just want to get to know the people, get to know the community. It's a very warm community. I'm not sure if tomorrow we have a session or not, but just in case we don't. This community, I've been to 14 states in America. This ranks high. The people are very warm, they're very open to knowledge, they're very keen for knowledge, very good people. I want to thank everyone for creating that warm environment. I want to thank the organizers. The iftar that we would have every night, the organizers of the food, that organization, I haven't seen it anywhere in America. Every time we went, everything was ready. It shows that they really put an effort in the food. They were very organized. In very few places have I seen such an organization. I don't want to mention any names because I may miss one or two names out, so you must forgive me. The people who would recite the Quran, the du'as, the ziyarat, I want to thank them too. Everyone played their bit, alhamdulillah, and it was an honor for me to be here. And inshallah, I'll have the honor again. But the point is, there are some things of the Sharia that I have to speak about. Amr bil Ma'ruf is wajib. And there were some shortcomings in the Sharia. But since it's the first time I'm here, if I was to be on the attacking side too much, it would have given a bad impression. So it was all irfani and cozy. Anyway, Imam said the sirat is here. You're building the sirat. From action to action, as you're acting, these actions will manifest as the sirat in the hereafter. So all in your hands. You're the architect. So I think I'll stop there with these points here. The tradition is a very important tradition though. It's worthy to go and study more about it. You may have access to even deeper material. وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله